I am so privileged today to introduce to you Emma Jane Truter, who by the age of 32 had numerous stays in rehab and mental institutions. At one point, she was taking 32 different medications and was in a constant state of fight or flight anxiety. There were more struggles, including 2 sexual assaults and a suicide attempt. She experienced burnout from overworking in her business, driven by a deep seated fear of failure. I'm sure some of us can relate to that. Over the past 18 months, she moved into a freeze state, which has proven to be the most challenging yet, working 17-hour days. She struggled to maintain friendships while quietly suffering despite promoting mental health to her team. Isn't that what often happens with us? We don't take our own advice. Despite her challenges, she has a unique and quirky approach to marketing strategies, making her an innovative and dynamic leader. With experience in managing an advertising agency, building brands from scratch, and launching emotional support platforms for mental health, Emma Jane excels as both a team leader and in managing client relations. Her keen eye for trends and passion for developing impactful campaigns continues to drive her forward. Emma Jane, congratulations for having your article published in Authority magazine titled Strategies for Rebuilding Life After Trauma. Are you able to identify when the series of traumas began that led to the drug abuse and high states of anxiety?
Yes, I think obviously as a kid, I grew up in somewhat of an amazing home. And then when I turned around 14, 15, it kind of sideswept when my parents got divorced. And I simultaneously got into a very abusive relationship. So between the two of those, I think that was, the catalyst that really set me down a path, which led me to my first clinic for depression. But I was also diagnosed incorrectly when I was 16. When I should have been diagnosed with ADHD, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder when I hadn't even, I wasn't even fully developed, obviously. So I think I would say around, my early teen years is where it kind of started to go down before 19, which is where it really hit the fan.
I'm so sorry for all of the traumas that you've experienced and starting at such a young age. You said that the major feeling as a result has been various levels of anger or rage. How have you handled those strong energies?
It was really difficult. I think I used to be, we mentioned, I think I used to be very much a flight person. I used to be a runner. So I would run away from everything or anyone. Whereas in my later years, let's say in the last 2 years, particularly over this burnout period, the last 18 months, I've experienced a lot of anger whilst I've been in a freeze state of anxiety. And that has led to me, like smashing plates and taking it out on my partner, doing things that I never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever do. I always witnessed other people doing it, but I never thought I would do it.
Yes,
And I've had to really dive deep into looking at what, my therapist will call the feral child, and the
yes.
feral child who's untamed and who's full of shame. And that shame is just perpetuating her into a state of anger. And so that's what we're working with now. Obviously, I'm not having such bad anger outbursts anymore. But yeah, it was really difficult, and particularly for the people around me. And also, I knew how crazy it was in the moment that they were happening, but it's almost like I couldn't control them. And I had to get it out somehow, and I didn't know how to contain myself until I learned the tools.
I I think in general our cultures discourage us from expressing anger in a healthy way. So we end up expressing it in unhealthy ways toward other people or things. You drew attention to a main event that precipitated positive change in your life. How old were you by that time, and what was that main event that began to give you more positive results in your life?
In 2016, when I tried to overdose, and landed up in ICU. By the grace of God, I was saved that day. The reason I even made it through, I'm like it's a crazy story how I survived that attempt. But shortly after that, I actually found my faith in Jesus, and
Mm.
that really started to pivoted my life entirely. So I had a good 4 years of serious grace where I lived in, I went to ministry school in California. I had really great community around me. I had this period of grace with Jesus where I was just living in this bubble, helping everybody else, and actually really, really thriving. Before I came back to South Africa and started my business and slowly moved away from my community and all things good and found my mind very clouded again, and putting too much out for others. But that was the massive change in my life. It took me off medication instantaneously overnight. Didn't need it, had no mood swings. I had no anger, no aggression, no depression, no anxiety. I used to wake up gagging in the morning with anxiety. And when I found God and I found my faith, it really was a complete spiritual awakening.
I love that term of spiritual awakening. It really is like the light turns on, isn't it? Like all of a sudden there's sun and the sunshine. And
It was.
I'm so happy that that was part of your journey of growth. You also really credit a lot of your help to something called neurosympathetic reset. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes. So I met a wonderful woman, Kelly Price, who runs a clinic called Reset Medical Wellness Center. And they have a treatment there called the neurosympathetic reset, which is also known as the NSR. And essentially what it is a pain blocker that gets inserted on each side of the neck. So it's a quick 20-minute procedure. And that pain blocker sits on the nerves of your nervous system. So it resets your nervous system into its natural form before like pre-trauma, um, or pre anything. So when how it's supposed to be, essentially, it sets it back to baseline. And I was blessed enough to have gone to Ohio to receive the treatment earlier this year. And I had been in such intense freeze state that I didn't realize how bad it was. I was just so shut down from emotions and obviously not understanding that freeze state. Not only am I shutting down the bad ones, but I'm also shutting down the positive ones. And so isolated from my friends, no connection in my partnership. Everything is just completely frozen. And when I had the treatment on the first day, it was like this video footage of me just sobbing afterwards, where I just couldn't stop crying. Like all of this emotion instantaneously came out. And then even more so on the second day, there's a slight study where they're saying that the ones that they're busy researching at the moment, that isn't a full scientific study yet, saying that the one side affects your earlier trauma and the other side affects, your later life trauma. And when I had the one that was supposed to be for my earlier side trauma, I cried, I think it was like 48 hours where I just did not stop crying. It was just crazy, incredible. It was just such a relief. It was like weights had been lifted off of my shoulder. It was, yeah, unbelievable. I didn't expect it to work on me. So obviously I'd seen tons of footage and done my research, but I didn't expect it to change my life, and it did. So very grateful.
It almost sounds miraculous to have something that kind of release from an injection. That's pretty amazing. As time has passed, what lessons have you learned for which you are grateful?
Times past, I've learned, firstly, I'm very grateful to feel emotion again. That's one thing that has really continued. I didn't not even if they are bad, I don't deem terminology like that, but let's just call anger something I would normally call a bad emotion for me. Even to be able to feel anger or to feel love or to feel connection with someone, One of the biggest ones for me is laughter. I didn't know when last I had a laugh. And I've really, like, I found myself with my friends really having a giggle and being able to connect to my friends even is, I'm very grateful for that. So I definitely say just being able to feel has been such an incredible feeling. Also, I feel a huge thing it's helped me with is almost becoming more capable of my own decision making again. So I'm feeling way more structured and assertive in making decisions around my business, around me, around my personal life, whatever needs to be done. I feel like I can actually action it versus being stuck in just completely doing the same cycle over and over again. For example, if a client and I are not, it is not the right fit. It is a lot easier for me to, to have a conversation with that client, to release that client then for me it's continue a relationship that I'm unhappy in, that my team is really unhappy in, but I'm doing it purely because I'm stuck and I don't want to disappoint. So that's been a weird symptom or thing that's happened that's come from it that I'm super grateful for. Um, but all in all, I think, yeah, definitely just emotions and being able to have boundaries and be more clear in my communication.
It sounded like you were talking about the ability to set appropriate boundaries. Is that accurate?
Yeah, you can say that. I was always good at my own maybe personal boundaries. Like I don't have capacity for this. Please don't talk to me in my personal life. But when it came to work life, definitely not. So yes.
Yes. So, how have you been able to use your experiences to help others?
I had many of course along the way. I've worked with various ministries, some Exodus Cry, which is a huge ministry that works with anti-sex trafficking around the world. I've helped on the film side, which is Magic Lantern Pictures, and being able to put some of my own story, my passion and story into that. Um, I've also created three different platforms. One was called Movement 838, which was initially after Romans 8:58 to 41. And we had stories, we told stories, everybody's mental health stories and spiritual stories. And that was, more spreading the gospel, but showing you that humanity is humanity. Um, I had a very well-read blog called Moments of the Mind, which no longer exists. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to keep it up, but I was very vocal in what was going on or what I had done in my past, and talking about things like themes of codependency and then relating it back to myself. So a very, very very in-depth blog about my life and then broader themes of understanding bigger topics like sex and love addiction and things that people might not quite comprehend. And then obviously that was quite a big hit on socials at the time. And we have just launched, but are not finished with, a ministry slash community called The Well, which is after the woman at the well and how, Jesus got there and looked at her and just it didn't matter what she had done. And so I wanted to create a community of people who felt shame, who just wanted a community of people to be around and to be loved by. And so that's what we're doing at the moment. And then that excludes obviously all the things that we do within the business, with my social media agency and what I do for my staff.
It sounds like you live a very, very full life. Are you able to maintain balance for yourself so that you don't get in that high anxiety state anymore?
Yes, I am I'm still downscaling the business to upscale. So I have figured out a new business strategy of which I have started already, undergoing. But yes, I am able to much better. I'm not working 17-hour days. I say no to meetings. My diary is not 9 to 5 in meetings. This week might have been an exception, but apart from that, generally much better. Whereas before I couldn't, if a client in the States needed me 11:30 p.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m. my time, I was up. And if I had to stay awake to do it, it meant that I was working for other clients in between then. And none of that was healthy for me. So nowadays I'm able to not have that. I
Good.
do still tend to give my staff a little bit more than me, but I mean, such as that, I think anyone in this space always gives a little bit more. I'm just very blessed to have staff that are like more like friends in the team who check on me all the time. And, a lot of my leadership team are very good at making sure that I'm not inundated and they take on a lot for me. So I am very grateful for that, especially after I opened up to them about my struggles.
Yes. It's such a blessing to have competent staff, isn't it? Any
Yes.
any leader needs to be able to develop competent staff. How, if our viewers want to reach you, how can they do that?
Best way to reach me would be probably via Instagram or email. Those are the two platforms I'll most likely look at. So my email is emma@emmaissocial.com, or our Instagram, which is emmaissocial.
Okay, I just highly recommend viewers read the entire article in Authority magazine titled Strategies for Rebuilding Your Life After Trauma by Emma Jane Truter. Thank you so much for joining me here this morning. I appreciate the very hard work you've done to deal with the traumas and the tragedies in your life, and also the ways that you're turning that into help for other people. So glad to see you, Emma Jane, and love supporting you and your work in any way that I can.
You likewise. It's been such a pleasure on both occasions. Thank you, Nancy.
Bye bye.
Bye.